trip continues to New York and Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. The Giants turn to their ace, Madison Bumgarner, to be their stopper after 5 straight losses after the break. One of baseball's best pitchers makes his first ever career start at Yankee Stadium in Game 1 of the series. It's Bumgarner and the Giants against the Yankees, and it's coming up next. The scene is Yankee Stadium as the road trip continues. This is Game 1 of a 3-game series, Giants and Yankees. Hi again, everybody. I'm Dwayne Kuiper. Alongside me is Mike Krukow. It is the Giants and the Yankees. That sounds great. Giants, however, have lost 5 straight, so they need a win, and they got the right guy out of the mound.
Well, you're right. They need a big league stop job, and there's been nobody on this Giants pitching staff better than Madison Bumgarner to give the ball to when the Giants need a stop job, and that's what he's going to try and give them. That'll be the first time that Madison Bumgarner ever tees it up against the New York Yankees here, and we've all known what type of a reputation he has pitching on a big stage, and this is a big stage.
Giants had an off day on Monday. They had an off day yesterday, so the bullpen should be ready to go.
Well, the bullpen's very rested. That's what off days do to you this time of year. And so is the offense. The offense really started to come to life in their last outing in Boston. They scored a ton of runs when you compare what they hadn't done the previous 4 games. The one thing that I think will be key tonight in this game offensively is there's a very inviting short porch in right field for these hitters. They can't think right field. If you do that, you play right into the hands of Tanaka, the right-hander for the Yankees, who's very good at pitching away from a hot field. So the Giants have to show some discipline, and the big man has to throw some zeros up there. That's the key tonight.
Yeah, I think the hot spots are all over the ballpark tonight with how hot it really is. All right, should be a good matchup. Bumgarner and Tanaka. When we come back, we will have the lineups and the first pitch right after this. for game one of this weekend series. Our game time weather is presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. And when you hear the temperature, you'll know it's a good time to get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open every day. 96 degrees here at the yard. Winds are very light. Humidity at 50%. And the forecast, pretty hot. Maybe a few showers in the area, but hot. Last time the Giants were here was 2013. The season was at the very close, and Mariano Rivera, it was his day.
That was his final 3 games as a big leaguer.
And here's our national anthem here at Yankee Stadium.
Their families, and everyone affected by this horrible tragedy. Thank you. And now, Robert Merrill's rendition of our national anthem.
Robert Merrill, a terrific national anthem, as we've heard Robert Merrill here for years. All right, let's take a look at the lineup for the Giants. And remember, there's the designated hitter here in this American League town. It's Span, Pagan, and Belt. Buster Posey will do the catching. Brandon Crawford. Crawford will hit in the 5th slot. Then Connor Gillespie, and Jared Parker gets the honors of being the DH, followed by Pena and Blanco.
On the hill tonight for the New York Yankees will be the right-hander Masahiro Tanaka, 6'3", 215-pounder. He's in his 3rd year at the big league level. 27 years of age. What's unique about Tanaka is that he has 7 years of experience in Japan as a starter. He was a prodigy coming into professional baseball at a very young age. This year, 19 starts, 7-2 with a 3.15 ERA. 100 strikeouts against 23 walks in 123 innings. He has a quality arm, and he can do a lot of things with the baseball. You'll see speeds that go anywhere from the high 80s to the mid 90s, depending on situation and grip. He'll sink and cut the fastball. He's got a curveball, slider, and a split. Perhaps the split is his best specialty pitch, but he has exceptional command with all of his pitches. You'll see him corner pitch with everything. First time facing the San Francisco Giants on a night where it is very hot, and it is a night that favors the hitter. There is carry everywhere in this ballpark, and of course the reputation of this Yankee Stadium is the hot porch in right field. It is one of the most hitter-friendly sides of a ballpark in all of baseball, and tonight with the hot temperature, it is definitely a night where you expect to see some home runs. Tanaka this year, his pitch usage, and you really see how he mixes everything up, relying on the fastball just 31% of the time. It basically sets up his other pitches, and as we mentioned, the splitter is probably his most effective pitch. That and the slider, both very, very difficult on the hitters. You can see their averages against it, but he still throws a cutter and a curveball, and he'll ride a hot pitch. Let's take a look at the defense that the Yankees will employ behind Tanaka, starting in their outfield from left to right. It'll be Gardner, Hicks, and Beltran. Good arms in center field and right field. Torreyes and Headley on the left side of the infield. Castro and Refsnyder on the right side. Austin Romine, he'll be in the squad putting down the signs.
Well, the Let's Go Giants chance has already started, and Yankee fans are trying to figure out where the heck that's coming from. So here's Span. And the first pitch of the ball game is high. Span breaks his bat, flips this one into center field, and you can see how it's carrying. That carried right out into center fielder Hicks, out number one.
All right, time now for our Nissan keys to the game. And if you're the Giants, you got to think score early. Why is that? Because the Yankees have a three-headed monster at the end of the game. 7, 8, 9 Betances, Miller, and Chapman. A very, very effective bullpen. You have to score early. And number two, how about win the DH? Today it's the DH. Jarrett Parker hit 255 with 5 bombs, taking on Alex Rodriguez, hitting 210 with 9. Giants win the DH. Those are Nissan keys to the game.
And Pagan takes a call strike. Not to mention that lifetime Rodriguez has a few more home runs than Parker.
Just a few.
Pagan hitting 291. He's got 5 home runs, 32 driven in. And he skies this one for Brett Gardner. 2 outs. And here's Belt. Belt hitting 285 with 10 home runs, 47 driven in. Belt did break his offer on this trip in Boston, but overall on this trip he's 1 for 21. There's a couple of groups here. There's the Affinities group, and then there's Giants Vacations. This is hit out into center field, and this is going to be a quick inning. It's 5 pitches for Tanaka. Bumgarner coming out. Yankees coming up. It'll be the very fast Brett Gardner. He is going to lead things off. Then it'll be Castro and then Carlos Beltran. See what he's done this year. It's a good park for Beltran, any player to hit in for that matter. It'll be Rodriguez, Headley, and then Refsnyder, followed by Romine, Hicks, and Torres. He will hit in the 9th spot.
On the hill tonight for the Giants will be Madison Bumgarner, the 6'5", 250-pound, 27-year-old. Coming into this ball game, making start number 21. He's 10-5 on the year with an 2.12 ERA. That's the active leader. Only Clayton Kershaw, who's on the DL right now, has a better ERA. 135 innings. He has struck out 155 hitters with 33 walks. And this is one of 4 teams that Bumgarner has ever faced. So his first time against the Pinstripes. And he has been the model of consistency in his 17 starts. He's got at least 6 innings in all of those starts. And this is what he throws. A fastball, he'll throw about half the time. A cutter, so that's 85% of the time you're going to see something hard. A fastball or a cutter. He also has a curveball and an occasional changeup. But he'll ride the fastball, which has a natural cut into itself, and that hard cutter a lot. Let's take a look at the defense playing behind Bumgarner tonight. Starting in the outfield for the Giants, left to right, will be Pagan, Span, and Blanco. Crawford and Gillespie on the left side of the infield, Pena and Belt on the right side. Buster Posey, as he always is, he'll be in the squad, putting down the signs for Madison Bumgarner.
So here's Brett Gardner hitting .261, 6 home runs, 24 runs batted in, and there's a big sweep in a minute. Gardner with good speed, 13 steals on the year, but he's also got some power, as this is stroked into center field, and it's going to fall. So a little bloop opens up the inning for the Yankees, and that'll bring up Castro. Castro hitting .259. He's got 11 home runs. He's got 37 runs batted in. I mentioned he had some ownage. 11 for 26 against Bumgarner.
That's ownage. Not many hitters can make that claim against Bumgarner.
First pitch is wide, 1 ball and no strikes.
Umpire tonight, Alfonso Marquez is a low ball guy. You don't see many strikes called outside of the catcher's knees. You put the target up and you can stretch the zone on both sides of the plate as long as Bumgarner's hitting the mitt between the knees.
Vanover, Guccione, and then Rackley. Larry Vanover is the crew chief.
Buster Posey sets up a target on the inside corner, and the ball goes across the plate in the outside corner. Not likely it's going to get called a strike by Marquez. A between the knees guy.
Raked into left field, and it's over Pagan's head. Here comes Gardner. Gardner's going to be waved in. Crawford's throw is offline. 1-0. Ball goes to the backstop, and Castro goes to third. So a bloop, a double, and an error, and it's 1-0.
Well, you talk about ownage, and it continues as Castro, who's been swinging a hot bat, puts a charge in one. And here's where the Giants make a rare mistake on a cutoff. The throw goes wide of Posey, and it's not backed up properly by Bumgarner. And Castro, who's got pretty good speed, takes advantage of the mistake. So not only do they get an RBI and a 1-run lead, now they have a runner at third with nobody out.
So here's Beltran, who takes down low. Beltran hitting at 300. He's got 20 home runs. He's got 60 runs batted in. And he's had a couple of lifetime home runs off of Bumgarner. Giants will play the infield back. And it's 2-0 with Alex Rodriguez on deck. First inning can always be a bit problematic for Bumgarner. Not all the time, just if he is going to be a little bit out of whack, it may be in the first inning. Here's the 2-0 pitch to Beltran, and Beltran takes a strike.
Bumgarner, like a lot of guys, will fight to find a rhythm in the first inning of a ball game. And I think right now, in Bumgarner's mind, he's thinking this is a strikeout situation. I mean, you don't really define that in the first inning, but with a runner at third, nobody out, I think he's thinking he's trying to strike out Beltran.
So it's now 2-2.
As Kai pointed out, the Giants have relaxed the infield back. They'll concede the run to stay out of the monster inning here. But as competitive as Bumgarner is, I mean, he doesn't want that guy to score. And that'll be a challenge with nobody out here.
And it's outside, so it's 3 balls and 2 strikes.
And the thing about the strikeout situation is, a lot of times you get in that strikeout mode, you start pitching to corners and guys don't swing at them, you can start walking guys.
And Beltran stays alive as he just got a piece of it.
Beltran's had a good year. He's been a producer.
Three balls, 2 strikes. And the walk.
The one thing that Dave Righetti was fearful of coming into this game was the long inning where you throw 25 or more pitches. And the reason for it is it's hot. 96 degrees out there in that field, maybe a bit hotter on the field than it is in the stands. So Rodriguez directing traffic, having second base umpire Chris Cuccione move from one side of the field to the next.
Rodriguez at 210, and he skies this one to right. It'll be Blanco who's going to catch, and Blanco gets it back in with Castro holding at third. So that's as good as a strikeout.
Better because it only took one pitch.
So here's Headley. Headley hitting .251 with 9 home runs. He's got 30 runs batted in. And Bumgarner starts him off with a pitch just wide. Headley 10 for 33. Headley's got ownage on Bumgarner. He's got 3 home runs against him. And the pitch, swinging a shot, and Gillespie's got it. 2 down. And that'll bring up Refsnyder.
A bullet, and really Gillespie didn't even have to hardly move his feet. So an atom ball, and if you're going to have a good night, you have to have a couple of those.
Yes, you do. Refsnyder hitting .260 with 10 runs batted in. And he takes a breaking ball for a strike. On deck would be Austin Romine, and the 0-1 is just off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Refsnyder, born in Seoul, Korea, grew up in the States, Laguna Hills in California, went to University of Arizona. Rookie. 5th round pick by the Yankees in 2012.
Pitch is wide, so it's 2 balls and 1 strike. Bumgarner about ready to throw pitch number 19. He can get out of this mess by limiting the damage to just 1 run. 2-2.
Well, and he can also get out of the mess without having to throw a lot of pitches.
Right.
I mean, the way this thing started out, you're thinking, uh-oh, this could be a 25-30 pitch inning.
Two balls, 2 strikes. In the dirt. Nice block by Buster Posey.
That was a good block. For the hitter here at Yankee Stadium, pretty good hitting background. As you would expect, this place is built for offense. The Yankees had that in mind when they tried to duplicate the type of feel that the old ballpark had for a hitter when he stepped in that batter's box in this new ballpark. It's a beautiful yard, but it is live and it favors the hitter, especially on a hot night like tonight.
Runner goes. So second walk in the inning.
Really, the walks are just an indication that he just doesn't quite have his rhythm yet. This became a stress inning very quickly. And really, when you get out there on the mound coming out of the bullpen, you don't know what's working.
Nope. Well, the walk puts Beltran in scoring position. One ball and no strikes. Three home runs for Romine, 17 runs batted in. Castro's at third, Beltran's at second, Refsnyder's at first. On the ground, Gillespie foul. And that evens the count.
Romine's father, Kevin, former big leaguer, played in parts of 7 seasons with the Red Sox in the mid-'80s. He's got a brother that was drafted as well.
Bumgarner deals. Hit into left center field. Span. As the ball starts to carry, and that'll end the inning. Bumgarner limits it to 1 run. It could have been a lot worse. 1-0 Yankees.
By AAA. Get a free road trip day pack with a AAA insurance quote. Go to AAA.com/roadtrip or a AAA branch for details. Restrictions apply.
1-0 Yankees. And here's Buster Posey. Buster takes a called strike, hitting .286, 12 home runs, 44 driven in. Crawford to follow, and then Gillespie. Tanaka. It's not going to overpower you, but as Mike mentioned earlier, he will work you. Little check swing foul.
Posey not happy with that swing going after that pitch location. And if you're facing Tanaka for the first time, he really does have the advantage on you. Simply because he can do so many things with the ball, and he's got so many different type of pitches he can strike you out with. He's got quality stuff.
Posey hits it foul, may have hit it off his foot. Giants had a day off yesterday. They arrived by train as Buster Posey tries to walk this off right around 4 in the morning after the game on Wednesday in Boston. So by the time you get settled, you're probably not in bed till 5:30. Back foot.
Back footer. Don't expect to get hit there.
In the dirt, 2-2. Yeah, you don't see many right-handed hitters put protection on their back foot.
No. I mean, if you did, you'd get laughed at. But we've seen 2 times where guys got hit on that back foot. Right-handed hitter, Matt Williams, hit it off his right foot, broke his foot. Bill Miller.
Full count.
Miller hit it off of his foot, broke his foot. So we used to make fun of it. Not anymore.
Nope. Buster Posey on the ground to foul. Is Tanaka had Buster Posey just out in front. Giants lost 3 in San Diego, then 2 in Boston. Their record now on the road is 28-21. Dodgers are playing in St. Louis tonight. And the walk.
Good at bat. All right, Thursday, July 28th is Law Enforcement Appreciation Night at AT&T Park. Your special event ticket will include a limited edition law enforcement themed Giants belt buckle and a ticket to see the Giants take on the Nationals. You want to get in on this? You go to sfgiants.com/special events for more information.
Here's Crawford. There's our folks. Dave Dravecki is in that group somewhere. I do believe the Vacations group is in the second deck. Finnery somehow got to the upper deck. Bouncing ball into right field, a base hit. Give me a chance to say the New York Times on Thursday morning, their newspaper had a terrific story on Brandon Crawford, and the story said he is the best defensive player in baseball. It was a great story.
Well, you know what's cool about it? Before, everybody felt that way about their shortstop, but now they have a statistical formula that can prove it.
Yeah, well, we get to see it with our own eyes. Other people read about it, unless, of course, they watch us with their MLB app, like a lot of folks do. Gillespie is at the plate. Crawford, first hit of the game for the Giants. Gillespie is the only Giant that has had any at bats against Tanaka, and he's 2 for 3 lifetime.
I'm saying that's ownage.
It's about the only thing we got to go on, so it's ownage.
2 for 3. Oh yeah, owns this guy.
Parker's on deck. 1-0 Yankees. Top of the second. One ball and 1 strike. Hey, I mean, you get a look at Tanaka. He's not going to give in.
Well, and he's going to stay down around the knees. He's pitching for the ground ball. I mean, one thing we've learned about the guys that come out of the Japanese league, they totally get situational baseball. And with Tanaka, he's got 4 or 5 different pitches that have downward snap that will induce ground balls. So with him, you don't see many pitches up when he has a guy in a forced situation. He's pitching for ground balls.
This is foul. And it's 1-2. Now you might have some guys say, well, I wanted the hitter to do that. It's 1-2.
If you, yeah, I think if you have a pull hitter up there, and I can't classify Connor Gillespie as a pull hitter. He's kind of a gap-to-gap guy, kind of a modern generation type hitter. Back in our generation, you had pull hitters on every team, and you could do that. You could throw big, slow breaking balls off the plate down and into a left-hander, and he'd hit the ball forever foul, and you could get 2 strikes easy.
Posey at second, Crawford at first. Cued off the end of the bat. So Gillespie manages to stay alive.
Dave Parker used to be a hitter you could get strikes with. He'd look to pull early in the count, big
so
and strong.
Get a few oohs and ahs on how far that ball was.
He hit one out of Candlestick against me.
Foul.
Foul. Out of Candlestick. It's the most impressive strike I ever saw. I kind of felt like I'd accomplished something.
It's 1-2 to Gillespie. Got him. I think he's backed that last pitch up.
You may be right. It had some downward bite on it. I think that's exactly what it was. So with a runner at second base, nobody out, you're pitching for the strikeout, and he gets it. That's how I think you really define a guy if he's a strikeout pitcher or not, is when he can get that strikeout in a strikeout situation.
Parker hitting .255. Parker hammers one to center field, and it's right at the center fielder, Hicks.
Can't hit the ball any harder than that.
So you got to keep swinging it.
Right on the button, and in the end he hit it too hard.
So here's Pena.
Yeah, Tanaka's going to like that. He gets his atom ball. So both pitchers have benefited from the atom balls. Hit right at him.
Pena hitting at .348. One ball and no strikes. And the pitch is high, 2-0. One home run for Pena. He's got 11 runs batted in. And a strike. Gregor Blanco is on deck.
Tanaka in his 10th year of professional baseball. And what's unusual is he's 27 years old. We're talking the first part of the East Coast swing when the Giants were in Boston. Rick Porcello, who's got 7 years of time in the big leagues. He's 27 years old. We thought he and Madison Bumgarner were similar numbers.
Tap slowly. And that'll end the inning. So Torreyes throws out Pena. Giants strand a pair. It's 1-0 Yankees.
On CSN Bay Area is brought to you by Amici's East Coast Pizzeria. When you want the best pizza in town, Amici's delivers.
Yankees with a 1-0 lead. Hicks will lead it off, followed by Torreyes and then Gardner. Bumgarner threw 24 pitches in that first inning. And this is skied to left for Pagan. One out. So one pitch went out. That's a gift, right?
Absolutely, it's a gift. Nothing better. I mean, everybody used to say a perfect game is 27 strikeouts. No. Perfect game is 27 first pitch outs.
You know that guy?
There's Doc Murray, Dr. Bob, who's having a sip of water right now.
I don't know. You think that's water in there?
With Dr. Bob?
Yeah, I bet it is. Otherwise, Dr. Bob would fall asleep by 8 o'clock.
he may do that anyway. Good for a nap or two.
We speak from experience. Torreyes is hitting .232, and he's going to have himself a base hit. And he is going to put on the brakes. And that's the third hit off of Bumgarner.
Nice play right there by Denard Span to make that single stay a single.
I think Pagan's probably telling Span, I had a better angle at this, which means I could probably give you a better throw.
Now they're kind of split right between them. They're both in position to feel the hop, and you're right. It would have been in a better position for Pagan, who has a stronger arm than Span. But hey, they got the job done and held Torreyes to a single. That's the main thing.
Gardner blooped a single into center field in the first. Here he takes a strike. It's about now when Bumgarner starts to get into a decent rhythm.
And when he gets into a decent rhythm, he usually starts to lower the consistency of his fastball and his cutter. I like that. As we mentioned at the start of our broadcast, Bumgarner's got a string of 17 starts in a row where he's gone at least 6 innings. It's the longest such period in his career when he's able to have that type of consistency eating innings. And that's the reputation you want to have as a starting pitcher. You want to be an innings eater.
Well, if you look at how he's built like an innings eater.
Oh, you're right. 6'5", 250 pounds. Country strong. Jim Cott, who's here broadcasting a game tonight, played 25 years in the big leagues, and he built like Bumgarner. And he was talking about Bumgarner, and his question to me today: do you think Bumgarner's upset when they take him out of a ball game after he's thrown 115 pitches? I said, you bet he is. I said, I think if Bumgarner, 20 starts, if it was a couple generations ago, he might have had 12 complete games, maybe more.
Or if he was in the American League. Skied out to left center field. It'll be Pagan again, and Pagan's going to make the catch. There are always games in the National League where you're going to get pinch hit for, and you lose decisions that way. Here's Castro, who doubled off of Bumgarner in the first, and he knocked in his 38th run.
Jim Cott was talking about when he came up with Minnesota Twins, he was on a 4-man rotation, and those 4 guys in the rotation between them averaged 265 innings apiece. I mean, that's over 1,000 innings with 4 guys.
It's unheard of now.
Unheard of.
And he didn't get hurt. And I guess those other 3 guys didn't either. I wonder if Mudcat Grant was in that group. I think he was.
Mudcat Grant, Jim Perry, I think, may have been in that group.
Jim Lord?
Gaylord's brother, Jim Lord. There's Kitty Cat on the left.
Hey, Moraga's own. Matt Vasgersian on the right.
2 good guys right there.
I wonder if Moraga claims Matt. What do you think?
Absolutely they do.
Maybe Arinda does too. One ball and no strikes. Bumgarner stays away. 2-0.
And this, I think, is an interesting at bat because of the ownage that Castro has had lifetime against Bumgarner, and what Castro did in his first at bat. He hit a double to left center field. Now, we always talk about how competitive Bumgarner is, and I guarantee he's taking this at bat personal.
And he flops in a strike. It's 2-1.
There's the numbers: 12 for 27 with 3 doubles, a lifetime .444 average.
When this kid got called up, you'd figured he would be in Chicago for 15 years. Two balls and a strike.
Those throwovers called by Bruce Bochy from the Giants bench.
Good pitch, 2-2. Yankees scored in the first. It's 1-0. It's 2 balls and 2 strikes to Starlin Castro. Hit on the ground towards the hole and a base hit. Pagan overruns it And moving over to third is Torreyes. It'll be an error on Pagan. Castro is 2 for 2.
Yeah, this is the ground ball that finds a hole. And that's an ownage type of a base hit. But here, Pagan coming in very aggressively, overruns the ball.
Beltran drew a walk in the first. And the fastball is high. Well, Bumgarner knows that he's got Alex Rodriguez on deck. There is a base to play with, but it is early too. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike.
A lot of stretch time for Bumgarner early on in this ball game. That's next pitch, number 40. And on a hot night, that's an issue.
Pop to the backstop, 1 and 2.
Bumgarner's very close to a no stop when he brings his hands together. In his effort to try and be quick out of the stretch, he's very, very close to not coming to a stop. See the perspiration starting to come through his jersey.
Down the left field line, hit well and foul. Seeing as how we don't do many games from here, it takes a little while to figure out, was that ball going to stay fair or foul? Judging just by Beltran's reaction, you knew it was going to be foul. Other than that, I thought it was gone.
Yeah, I did too. Off the crack of the bat, I'm thinking, this is not good.
One and 2. And a base hit to left field. It's 2-0 on Beltran's single. So here's Alex Rodriguez. Rodriguez saw 1 pitch and he popped out to right field in the first inning. But you can't make a mistake to him. I mean, his average may be down, but
dangerous.
He can still pop one out of the park at any time.
696 lifetime home runs.
Up high, 1 ball and no strikes.
You know, and I think 4 home runs away from 700. I mean, don't you think he's thinking home run in every at bat?
Absolutely. I think he's been doing that for a while. Rodriguez will have to get new lumber.
The Manny Mota stick universally in every on deck circle in the big leagues, minor leagues, college level, most high schools.
Now, do you get residuals for every time you use it, or just for the whole stickum? The whole. I hope Manny's getting something. Shoots Rodriguez back, 2 balls and 1 strike.
Shot Rodriguez, in the grand scheme of things, ranked number 4. Most home runs ever. Willie Mays, number 5. Ruth Aaron Bonds.
Two and two.
Earlier today, they were lobbing balls in, middle in, just above the knee, just one after another. And all he's trying to do is stay inside this pitch, this location, to get backspin on the ball and drive it out. His batting practice was fantastic. He's flipping up second deck easily.
Right at Pagan, and that'll end the inning. A run on 3 hits. It's 2-0 New York. Giants allowing 14 home runs in the last 5 games. He said we've got to cut down on some of these mistakes because there's too many balls leaving the yard right now. I'd say that that's true. Blanco's going to lead things off. Giants would like to have some balls leave the yard in the top of innings, not bottom of innings. Under the legs. Refsnyder and Blanco's aboard on the air.
I mean, that is such a huge break right there, because if he catches the ball and makes the play, that's a 1 pitch out to start the inning. And given the fact that Bumgarner's thrown a lot of pitches in the first 2 innings, he needs a little breather. So the fact that this gets through Refsnyder and they don't get the 1 pitch out and they get a base runner, that's a big deal.
Here's Span. Span flipped one into center field that Hicks ran down. Span just trying to get going. Came into the game at 254. And he shows bunt, and he takes a curveball for a strike. Curveball's not a bad pitch to try to bunt, but also because of the lack of velocity, that third baseman can get on you a little quicker too.
That's one you try and take with you down the first base line. But the reason it's an easier pitch to bunt, because the movement on the pitch is downward breaking. You bunt it, it's going to go down.
So Span, just like that, finds himself behind in the count, 0-2. Giants had Posey and Crawford aboard in the second, failed to score, although Parker hit a ball right on the nose that was caught. And Span's going to flip one to right, but it's foul. There's a lot of room out in right field as Beltran is shading Span a bit towards left center.
Well, you know, you come out of Boston with the Green Monster in left field, and you see how shallow a left fielder plays in Boston. Now you come here to New York, and it's kind of that way with the right fielder because of the short wall. Look how Beltran positions himself in right field. That's shallow.
Now, plus it doesn't. It's like the wall at Fenway. It doesn't jet out. Kind of goes straight across the field. Which means the gaps are going to be fairly short.
Now, not only is it a short wall from home plate, but the wind blows out that way. Now, it's kind of a double thud.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson would have loved this place.
Really love the old place.
Hit on the ground and a base hit. Blanco's got the speed to get to third. And the Giants now with runners at the corners, and the big fellas are coming up. So the air sets the table.
An easy read for Blanco. Now Beltran has a good arm, but he also knows that Beltran was playing in right center away from the line. And that angle right there, he was going to be able to go from first to third easily.
So here's Pagan. Pagan hit a fly ball to left. So Tanaka going after Angel Pagan. And a drive to right, and Beltran's there. He's going to make the catch. Here's the throw home. It's a good one, and they got him. Roberto Kelly is looking at Gregor Blanco like he did that on his own. And you mentioned earlier, Mike, the accuracy of Carlos Beltran.
Well, he's got a real strong arm and a very accurate one. It's a lethal combination. I don't know. Giants may look at this. They can get an angle that shows that that finger touched home plate. I think he avoided the tag. It's just a matter of whether or not that finger reached out and touched the plate, and they're going to look at it.
Well, if they called him out there, then there must be an assumption that he missed home plate, and he didn't. This replay review is presented by Xfinity.
I mean, this is a big play in this game.
I think Bruce Bochy has turned around and asked Gregor, did you do that on your own? Giants fans are cheering. They missed him.
This is you can clearly see he misses him here. I don't know if he touched it.
You don't know if he touched home plate.
I don't know if he touched home plate. Right there, I mean, that could be the definitive one right there. Because if anything, that's the best look at him touching home plate.
There you
he's
go.
safe. That's the best one right there. defining whether he touched it. And they played that over the high home view, and the Giants fans all reacted in a positive way.
Only thing that'll get the Giants on this one is if they call inconclusive.
I think the overhead really illustrates that he indeed touched the plate.
Plus, I haven't written anything down yet, and that's usually a good sign.
Well, one thing about Yankee Stadium, they've replayed it out center field about 15 times. And here we go. It's been that kind of road trip. And you can see the frustration in the Giants bench.
So the hitter will be Belt. Belt hit a fly ball to center field in the first. Inconclusive. I had no opinion on that word until the last couple of years.
Yeah, now it kind of ticks you off, doesn't it?
Yeah. Belt, side retired. Giants second inning in a row. Golden opportunity. Nothing.
Insurance and financial services for you and your business. Visit hefins.com.
It's a 2-0 lead for the Yankees as Chase Headley steps in. Headley, Refsnyder, Romine. 1 ball and no strikes. Tom Pellick's here. Way to go, Tom.
Tom with the Giants hat on.
Richard Puglia from our Comcast offices. Tom's always been good luck, so hopefully that'll turn out to be something that works here tonight.
Yeah, he's been a slump buster.
A 1-2. Headley lined out to Gillespie, and he's gone. Nationals are in town from July 28th through the 31st. And on Saturday, the first 20,000 fans, they're going to get a Buster Hugs mug, courtesy of AAA. That's the 30th, and then on the 31st, the first 30,000 fans are going to receive a Bruce Bochy gnome, and that's presented by AT&T. sfgiants.com/tickets.
Those are two pretty good giveaways.
Here's Refsnyder. Drew a walk in the first. Our friend at AT&T, Denise Ebright, did a lot of those gnomes by hand.
Very artistic.
Yep. Denise. She can do it all. 0-2 pitch. And that looked like a pretty good pitch, but called high. 1-2.
It set up a lot. I mean, you go right back in there with a little more cut. You could go soft away. It's a good 0-2 pitch.
A little pop up for Belt. And Belt in foul territory will make the catch.
And there's the soft away that gets the pop up. Nice pitch.
So here's Romine. Romine hit a fly ball to center field to end the first, and he did that with the bases loaded. Castro an RBI double. Beltran an RBI single. On the ground, foul. Giants have been able to set the table. They just haven't done anything with it.
Now the one thing I'm sure that Hensley Mullins and Steve Decker, the two hitting instructors for the Giants, are saying in the Giants dugout right now is just keep setting the table, keep creating opportunity.
And try to do something before the 7th.
That would be good.
And Bumgarner's pitch is high. 1 ball and 1 strike.
The reason there's so much pressure to score early against the Yankees is because of their three-headed monster in the bullpen. Dylan Betances, Andrew Miller, Aroldis Chapman. I mean, they're 3 closers at the end of their game. Legitimate closers.
More work for Pagan as he will stroll underneath this one, and that'll end the inning. So Bumgarner comes up with a nice quick inning, and now the Giants will send up Buster Posey.
Brought to you by PG&E. Together building a better California.
Good look at the Empire State Building. 2-0. Here's Buster Posey. Buster drew a walk in the second.
Quiet night for the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
No big gorilla up there on top of the mountain.
On the ground towards the hole and into the hole off the glove of Torreyes. And Buster opens up the inning with a base hit.
Well, the Giants Inside podcast is sponsored by Max Muscle Sports Nutrition and is live on csnbayarea.com. Log on each week as insider Alex Pavlovich talks baseball with players, coaches, special guests, and more. The Giants Insider podcast with Alex Pavlovich on csnbayarea.com, also available on iTunes.
Larry Baer is the special guest for Alex. Here's Crawford. Crawford singled in the second. Giants have been able to hit that hole between first and second. And Crawford takes a strike. No balls and 1 strike. And a quick 0-2.
Cutter on the backside. What's the thing about Tanaka? I mean, just exceptional command of all of his pitches, movements, and speeds.
Yeah, now when you're down, Crawford was down 0-2, now 1-2. And now the fear is that he's going to make a pitch that's too close to take, and you're going to hit one into the ground. I guess that's the beauty of getting ahead of a hitter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is.
2-2.
When you're on top of a hitter, 0-1. 0-1. The first pitch is such a big pitch. Getting that first strike. Now all of a sudden you have 2 shots to go at a corner at a perfect location. Let him hit your pitch, as opposed to being down the count 1-0. Now you got to get a little bit deeper in the strike zone. Better pitch to hit for the hitter.
0-2 to 3-2. So he tried 3 times.
Yeah.
He may not throw him a strike here.
The other thing too about him in 3-2 counts, there's no predictability as to what he's going to give you.
No.
He throws anything at any time. Period.
Got him.
And that point you make about him not throwing a strike, that's an example of it. So Larry Vanover, the crew chief, first base umpire tonight, part-time bat boy.
Well, I mean, the whole point is if you get an eager hitter, it's 3-2. I mean, look, Greg Maddux used to do that all the time.
All the time. Use the aggressiveness of a confident RBI guy and use that aggressiveness against him.
Gillespie struck out in the second. Overshift is on. And he wraps this one into right field, a base hit. So he hit it right through the defense, and that'll bring up Parker. I mean, I think this is another thing about Tanaka. He's going to pitch a lot through traffic, and so far he's been able to do it. Parker hit a ball right on the nose in this same spot in the second inning that Hicks ran down. And he went after the first pitch. Posey at second. Gillespie at first. One ball and no strikes.
He backed the outfield up in defense of Parker. Pinch the gap at right center. Give him the line to the right field. Really give him the line on both sides. Last at bat hit a bullet right to Aaron Hicks, the center fielder.
Two and 0.
The other thing too about Jarrett Parker is that he's streaky with his contact.
Yep.
When he gets it going and he starts squaring that baseball up, that's when he goes off. And we saw it last year where he just put on a show with a long ball in the month of September.
Well, he can sit on a pitch here, but remember, Tanaka's not always going to give in to you.
Changeup, no, two-seam fastball with big sink.
And maybe Parker should be happy he didn't hit that.
If he hits that, in all likelihood, could have been an inning-ending double play. But you know the other thing too is Parker's a good low ball hitter. Tanaka gives him a lot of stuff down around the knees. That's his strength. So from that regard, it's strength on strength.
So Tanaka's thinking, now what can I throw this young hitter other than a fastball that he's going to chase?
Never backed into a pitch. All of his pitches, he'll throw 3-1, 3-0, 3-2, bases loaded.
And the walk.
Nice at bat. And that really is a mistake. I mean, yeah, he just sent a runner over to third base by way of the walk. And in a two-run ball game, now it's a runner at third, less than 2-out situation. A fly ball can score a run. Anytime you create an opportunity for your opponent to score a run without having to get a base hit, then you've made a mistake.
Pena bounced out to Torreyes at short to end the second. No balls and one strike. He can get 93 when he wants it.
No, he's got more than that too. He can go country hardball around 95. And like a lot of pitchers, he'll normally save that high velocity for 2-strike counts.
And the 0-1. Here it is to Pena. Just off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike.
94-mile-an-hour fastball. Set that target right in the outside corner. And that missed by 4 inches.
Posey, Gillespie, Parker. And the 1-1. Two down.
And the one thing the Giants have been able to do tonight is set the table. The one thing they have not been able to do is get the hit that cashes in the table setters.
Well, Blanco can help the cause. He reached on an error in the third.
Now he can pick up Ramiro Pena right here.
1-0. 50 pitches.
And digging deep, but also throwing his highest velocity fastballs of the night.
Two and 0.
Just pounding that outside corner with two-seam movement running away from Blanco. And I think the tendency in this situation with the short porch in right field here at Yankee Stadium is for hitters to go up there and try and pull, try and hit the ball out. But with a guy like Tanaka, even in a 2-0 count, in your mind, you have to be disciplined to take what he gives you. And right now, he's giving you the other side of the field, left field. And that's how you have to think if you're Blanco. Look for something hard away with movement running away from you. If you throw something soft in and speeds your bat up, well, that's his gift to you. Otherwise, look hard away with movement running with sink. So Romine, the catcher, going to come out. Perhaps a bit of a pet talk.
Two and 0. Big pitch. Blanco waiting.
Little cutter on the inside corner. Blanco out front.
Two and 1 to Gregor Blanco.
Back out away.
We ain't biting on that one, but Tanaka's got a bag full of tricks to throw here. 3 and 1.
I mean, he's just never going to give in to you. It just he'll walk you before he gives in to you. He'll never just give you a here hit me fastball.
And the 3-1. Here it is.
95 on the outside corner with two-seam movement running away. And that was a perfect pitch.
Posey, Gillespie, and Parker. Three and 2. Runners go. Foul back. Good swing.
Again at 95.
You know he's dying to throw the same pitch he threw Crawford.
And that was the breaking ball down below the strike zone. And he got Crawford to chase.
And the payoff. Got him. So frustrating.
Watch this one. It's gone. Davenport scores.
The Togo's way.
Miller.
1962 World Series, Giants, Yankees, Game 4 here at Yankwell, the old Yankee Stadium. Chuck Hiller hits a grand slam off Marshall Bridges in the top of the 7th to break a 2-2 tie. Giants would win that ball game 7-3, and they tied the series at 2 games apiece. It was the first grand slam hit by a National League player in World Series history.
There's Chuck Hiller. Giants grand slams in postseason. Will Clark, Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford.
Never have hit one in San Francisco. Always on the road.
Here's Hicks. Hicks is going to look at a pitch down low. I'm not sure I've witnessed 3 more frustrating offensive innings than the Giants have had this season.
Well, when you're slumping, I mean, that's what happens, though. When you get an opportunity, you hit a ball hard, it gets caught, it finds a glove.
Well, that was the case in the 3rd. That certainly was not the case in the 4th.
Yeah, you have a count leverage 3-1, and all of a sudden, boom, you wind up striking out with the bases loaded. Look, that's what causes slumps. You just have to grind through it.
Buster Posey is out of the game. It's Brown behind the dish.
Remember, Posey hit a ball off his back foot earlier in the game. Perhaps that is causing him some problems.
Well, plus he's been standing on the bases 2 of the 4 innings. As Hicks strikes out. And that'll bring up Torreyes. When your starting catcher leaves fairly early in the game, you have to keep the next catcher standing on his feet. As this is popped up, it's going to be Belt who makes the play. 2 outs. Because all of a sudden then you got to worry about who's the backup. At some point you just kind of have to ask for volunteers.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Gardner is singled and he's flied out to left. Bumgarner wanted that pitch. It's 1 ball and no strikes. Angel Pagan in left field, and a nice quick inning for Bumgarner. So the Giants will go right back up on offense, and they'll have the top of the order coming up. It's 2-0 New York.
that means it's time for the NorCal Accurate Grand Slam giveaway on CSN. Herbert Duran, you are the man. And you will win an Accurate MDX if a Giant player hits a Grand Slam this inning. So go to AccurateNorCalDealers.com for more information on how to enter. So, Herbert, good luck.
Here's Span. Span looks at a strike. He's 1 for 2, a single in the 3rd inning. Span, it's a high pop-up into shallow right field. Beltran's not going to get there. Castro does, and he makes a nice catch.
We go back to the 2nd inning, and at bat for Buster Posey. Watch the ball as it comes off the bat. It hits the back foot right on the top of the toes. And that, we believe, is what has caused Buster Posey to have to leave the ball game. Eerily reminiscent of the same type of a foul ball that hit Matt Williams and broke his foot. And we are keeping our fingers crossed right now, folks. And we'll let you know as soon as we find out the extent of that injury.
Pagan is flied out, and he's lined out to right. And a breaking ball for a strike. On deck is Belt. Close. 2 balls and a strike.
Tanaka's saying, wait a second, you just called one the same spot a strike. What was wrong with that? And you do think that way if you're on the mound.
Lifted out into left center field, but Brett Gardner says he's got it. Well, you can watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices with MLB.TV Premium. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Two outs, and here's Belt. Belt is flied out, and he's hit a soft line drive to the shortstop, Torreyes. And here he takes a strike. And another strike.
Back-to-back perfection with a fastball in the inside corner, coming back on the outside corner with a little cut movement. In the eye of Bell on the 0-1 pitch, he saw that pitch early, gave up on it, just kept working its way back into the zone. Perfect pitches.
Straightens him up.
Elevated by design. If you've never seen Tanaka pitch, tonight it really has been a perfect example of a guy that just has tremendous feel and command of his stuff. Hadn't made many mistakes over the middle of the plate all night.
Tries to crowd Belt. Giants opportunities in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Here it's been 2 quick outs. Belt trying to reach for Trevor Brown. And Belt stays alive as he rolls it foul. Overshift is on for Belt.
Bunch the gaps in the outfield. Wishbone defense on the infield.
And a full count.
Giants looking for a little 2-out thunder here. Something to get a little excitement going in that dugout.
Three-two pitch. Here it is to Belt, and he got him, and that'll end the inning. 4 strikeouts for Tanaka. On this date in 1983 at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, Jack Clark went 5 for 5 with 5 singles and Giants beat the Pirates 5-3. It was the only 5-hit game for Jack Clark's career and the first by a Giant since 1978 when Terry Whitfield did it. Jack Clark loved hitting at Three Rivers Stadium.
Yes, he did.
If he'd been a Pirate, he might be in the Hall of Fame. There's a base hit into center field. Ownage is ownage.
It's just amazing how that works. Hey, Jack Clark's here.
Here's Beltran. Beltran has walked and singled.
You know, the thing about ownage too, a guy could have a 1 for 63 coming into the night you're pitching, and if he owns you, yeah, that's a 2 or 3 hit night.
It absolutely is true.
He may break 3 bats, 3 hits.
Brown can't find it, and down to second goes Starlin Castro.
Pure wild pitch. And with a runner at second base now, nobody out, becomes a strikeout situation. Especially down 2-0.
Two 2-0 to Beltran. Coming into this game, the Yankees had won 4 straight and then lost yesterday. Played a day game. Lost 4-1 to the Orioles.
Bumgarner wanted that one too. So he comes back to the mound a bit dejected. Beltran will swing 3-0.
And a strike.
"70 pitches now for Bumgarner. Ideally, you want to be 75 or less after the 5th inning. So the first couple innings, when he really had to run the pitch count up high, coming back to haunt him a little bit.
Alex Rodriguez is 0 for 2. Rodriguez has popped out and he's flied out. No balls and 1 strike.
And that's the Bumgarner special right there. Throwing that cut fastball in on the hands of the right-handed hitters. And he might try and do that 3 times.
Castro and Beltran are your base runners. 0-2.
3 times. If he can't catch up to it and he's still swinging at it, you just keep throwing
Yeah,
it.
this one might even be a little higher. Got him.
That's a good morning, good afternoon, and go grab some pine meat.
Headley is lined out to third, and then Bumgarner struck him out in the 3rd. And he fouls this one in and out of the glove of Brown.
This is just a no respect country hardball across the letters. And from Bumgarner's perspective, after he had the first strike through him, he felt he could do it every time, and he did.
Oh, 2.
And he's doing the same thing to Headley. He's just going country hardball across the letters.
Now, Pena might want to keep an eye on Starlin Castro, because he's thinking about it. Got him.
6 pitches, 2 strikeouts.
You can see Bumgarner's jersey is a different color than his pants.
This is a night where if you're a starting pitcher and you throw 110, 15 pitches, you're going to lose at least 3-4 pounds. Sometimes as much as twice that.
Up here in the booth, not so much.
About 2-3 pounds
No,
up here.
actually, we got a chance after the press room here of gaining 2 or 3.
Yeah, these booths are a little too close to the press room for lunch.
Ref Snyder has walked and he's popped out to Belt. Two and 0. Bumgarner's now going to get into it with Marquez.
It wasn't the full-on Joe West stare down, but this is clearly a pitch he wanted. In the eyes of Alfonso Marquez, the plate umpire, he thought it was low. I mean, pitchers are like dogs. You feed a dog from the table one time, that dog's going to expect to be fed every time he sits at the table, or you sit at the table. And pitchers, you call a pitch a strike one time, they're going to expect it every time.
I don't blame him. I mean, you call that pitch a ball one time to a hitter, and the hitter's going to want it to be a ball every time. Right at Span, and that's going to end the inning. See if Bumgarner goes to Marquez to settle things down. Looks like he is. Items, a Giants nutcracker or a Pence on the Fence doll, plus a game ticket to see the Giants take on the Reds on Monday the 25th. That's when we get back. sfgiants.com/special events. Buster Posey left the game, so this will be the first at bat for Trevor Brown. Brown takes a high fastball.
Brown had a great day with the bat in Boston.
Great day.
3 hits, including a home run. Should have had 4 hits. So he's feeling good in the batter's box right now. Except on that pitch. Well, our Ford Wright choice is the day that he had 3 hits, including a big home run off Drew Pomeranz. Said it was a dream to think he could go to Fenway Park and hit a home run, and he crossed off that item on his bucket list. Our Ford Wright choice.
Lifts this one out into center field for Hicks. And here's Crawford. Crawford's 1 for 2.
Beginning here, because you start thinking about the bullpen when you're in the 6th inning and you're behind. Cannot stress as to how good the three-headed monster the Yankees bullpen are. Betances, Miller, Chapman. And if you're a starter for the Yankees, you're thinking, I need to go 6.
Crawford trying to get on for Gillespie, and then Parker, and then Pena. This is the area where the Giants have set the table, only to be denied in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Ooh, little cut fastball on the outside corner. That's been called a strike. This time it goes against Tanaka. Just wrap around that outside corner.
That's a strike.
Romine, the catcher, never moved his glove.
Crawford is going to smoke this one high and foul. Headley will change places with Torreyes. Now he's to the right of second base. Driven to right. Beltran makes the catch.
Well, Beltran does not have the same type of range that he once had, but he still has a good first step. And he needed every bit of the glove on this one. Just into the web. Tanaka. Digging it. In that kind of road trip.
Here's Gillespie. Gillespie singled in the 4th. Gillespie now lifetime against Tanaka is 3 for 5. Not a lot to go on, but nobody else has had any history until tonight.
Hey, at least he knows him. And you have to believe he sees the ball out of his hand pretty good if he's got that type of success at 5 at-bats.
One and two.
We talked about the different defenses that are now starting to happen within an at-bat when they go from no strikes to 2 strikes. And we're seeing it happen again here. Headley coming over to the right side of the infield now. I mean, that's how specific the defensive information is. What hitters do prior to 2 strike counts, what they do after 2 strike counts. And the Yankees have reacted by putting 3 players on the right side of the infield with 2 strikes. Yep. You're going to see more and more of that.
I think we'll see it the whole series. Foul. .82 pitches for Tanaka.
I mean, we've watched it for years in football, how defenses have reacted to plays and situation, and now we're seeing it come into baseball.
And on the ground, and Castro from shallow right field. And that'll end the inning. Bottom of the 6th coming up.
Brought to you by T-Mobile, and we're going to talk about Giants hitting instructor Hensley Bam Bam Mullins. He was a Yankee in parts of 5 seasons. In his first career home run, September 12, 1990, off knuckleballer Charlie Huff. Then his 4th career home run, May of 1991, against Brian Holman in Seattle. 2 home runs. He would wind up hitting 15 home runs in his career. He would play with the Yankees, the Expos, and the Diamondbacks. There's Bam Bam. Sir Bam Bam.
He can tell you about all of those home runs he hit in 5 different languages.
Yes, he can.
Here's Aaron. Oh, check that, Austin Romine. And that's foul just below us. There's Bam. Bottom 3 in this lineup. Romine has hit 2 fly balls. One's to center, one's to left. And part of the big 3 is up in the bullpen, I do believe.
Dylan Betances, the big right-hander.
Well, a little luck against Tanaka. Maybe a change would be good. Foul. 2-0. It's been like that since the 2nd inning. Bumgarner's allowed 2 base runners since the 2nd. Pitch number 86 is coming. Two and 2. Samardzija tomorrow. Cueto Sunday.
And the Heat promising to continue through the weekend.
Tapped, foul.
Talk about the great support that the Giants fans have given the Giants on this road trip. San Diego tons of Giants fans, as it always is. Great turnout in Boston and a great turnout here at Yankee Stadium. Giants have not been able to reward the Giants fans who've made these trips yet. 0-5 since coming out of the All-Star break. And pretty much tonight they've been sitting on their hands. They haven't been able to clap about a whole lot.
Well, the Giants set the table 3 straight innings. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Crawford to Belt. First work for Brandon Crawford tonight. A lot of balls hit in the air, not many on the ground.
That's a little odd. Usually when Bumgarner pitches, lots of activity for Crawford and whoever would be playing third base.
It's the first assist by an infielder. Here's Hicks. Maybe it's this ballpark, uppercuts.
You're probably right.
Pagan over and under. And here's Torres.
Talked about the streak that Bumgarner has had. 17 starts in a row where he's gone 6 innings or more, and he's won out from adding to that streak.
And a strike. Well, your old teammate, I'm sure, loves watching this guy, Jim Kaat.
Oh, you bet he does. Jim Kaat. All he wanted to talk about was Bumgarner. Jim Kaat was talking about a game he had here against the Yankees when he was with the Twins. Had a 1-0 lead, 2 outs. Pitching against Mickey Mantle. Whoop. Home run, tie score. Rain came, suspended game.
Bumgarner strikes out Torres to end the inning. Now we'll see if the Giants do it, or the Yankees do indeed go to the bullpen. It's 2-0. Your local Toyota dealer, Bumgarner, Tanaka, and Tanaka is the one that leaves the game with a shutout. Bumgarner, after allowing a couple of runs in the first 2 innings, has shut down the Yankees. Tanaka threw 83 pitches. Baumgartner's at 93. He's still in the game. And we have a new pitcher. When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service. Your oil change tune-up and smog experts.
Well, the first head of the three-headed monster, Dylan Betances, comes in, and look at the numbers: 2-4 with a 2.49 ERA, 82 strikeouts in 47 innings, averaging 15+ strikeouts per 9 innings, which ranks him second in Major League Baseball. And how does he do it? You're going to look at a fastball that goes mid to high 90s, occasional 100, and an incredible hard slider. And there it is.
So the X-rays on Buster Posey are negative.
Whew. Thank you.
So he has a contusion on his right foot. Parker drew a walk in the fourth, hit a line drive to center field in the second.
I think Marquez, the plate umpire, has just missed 2 pitches in a row. The count is as it should be.
Think he's got it backwards?
Yeah.
Teixeira is now at first. He's a good defender.
Breakable almost got him in the foot.
If you just joined us, Buster Posey hit one off his back foot, which would be his right foot. Now, he stayed in the game. He ran the bases a couple of times. He walked and singled, and then after the final time of running the bases, he came out of the game, and Parker's going to take the walk. Hey, a rally.
He's had a good night at the plate. Scalded one on his first at bats, had 2 walks.
Well, Betances doesn't walk that many. He's got 11, now 12 in 47 innings.
Yeah, and to start off an inning, that's a gift.
But his strikeouts are a little down. He's got 82.
I know.
And a strike.
Well, the guy's averaging 15+ strikeouts a game. I mean, come on.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
That's stuff. And this is how he uses it. Fastball 40% of the time, that breaking ball 58% of the time. Look what the league hits against the breaking ball. $1.15.
.98, probably above the belt, and it's 0-2.
And what it boils down to is that Yankees have 3 closers at the back end of their bullpen, and this guy's one of them.
Well, you know, as good as the Giants are going tonight, they just wanted a challenge.
Well, here it is.
They got it. And at third, David Rackley says, "You went around." You can't get 0-2. That's not a good spot to be in.
Did he go? Yeah.
Blanco's big at bat came in the fourth. He was up with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and in a long battle with Tanaka, and Tanaka finally struck him out on a 3-2 fastball.
You face a guy who's got stuff where he can strike out 15 guys for every 9 innings he throws. What's your mindset?
First fastball that's a strike, I'm going to put in play. 1 ball and no strikes.
Stay out of the 2-strike count.
Absolutely. And you know, and look, I didn't strike out that much,
but I mean, he's a 2-pitch guy. That even makes it more incredible.
Yeah, plus, if you get 2 strikes on it, you have to shorten up.
98 on the outside corner. If you pitch in this ballpark with the carry and the shortness of right field, you learn to pitch away to left-handed hitters if you're a right-handed pitcher. Well, if you're a left-handed pitcher. Perfect pitch. And now here's the 2-strike count you're talking about. Now You have to get short. There's Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach for the Yankees.
Two balls, two strikes to Gregor Blanco. Got him.
Breaking ball payoff pitch. Good hard breaking ball at 87. Just the lateness and the quickness is what makes it devastating.
Here's Span. Parker still at first. Not close. One ball and no strikes.
When you stand next to Dellin Betances, you're impressed. He's 6'8", 265. He is a big fella.
One ball and one strike.
And that ball was by him. Betances, a 3-year veteran, 28 years of age. George Contos played with Betances when he was in the Yankees organization, the minor leagues. Said that he always had that great breaking ball. I said, oh yeah.
'99.
Betances, through most of his career, was a starter. Wasn't until 2013, AAA ball, Scranton Wilkes Booth, the AAA affiliate of the Yankees, that they put him in the bullpen, and then that's it. Ever since he's got the big leagues, he's been a bullpen guy.
Down the right field line, a fair ball. Parker can run a little bit, and they are going to hold him up. Beltran did a good job. So now the Giants have the tying run at second base.
It's a good thing the red flag was put up. And indeed, Beltran did do a very good job. The Giants catch a bad break here as the ball kicks off the side, comes back to Beltran. If he gets down there in the corner, Jared Parker's going to score. And watch him put the flaps down. Woo, 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 woo. And Span, he's heading over to third, and he's got to put the flaps down.
So now the Giants looking for a 2-out hit from Angel Pagan. 1 ball and no strikes. Pagan is 0 for 3.
But he's been hot. He's been swinging the bat well on this trip.
Pagan ahead in the count. 2-0.
2 pitches, 2 breaking balls. Now Betances is going to take a walk. And if you're Pagan, gear up. Here's where you can gamble. You've got count leverage. Look for 1 pitch. He's only got 2. Pick out 1, sit on it, and hope he makes a mistake.
To the backstop. Giants are going to score a run, and Span is now at third. It's 2-1. Take it.
Absolutely. That's a rally. Are you kidding? Austin Romine, the catcher for the Yankees, really didn't have time to get a whole lot of body in front of that fastball in the dirt. And Joe Girardi, an old catcher, knows what that feels like.
Slowly hit. And that's going to end the inning. So the Giants get a little closer. It's 2-1. Here at Yankee Stadium, it's a 2-1 ball game. The Giants finally get on the board in the 7th off of Betances, and now Bumgarner will go after the top of this Yankees lineup. Reds are in town from the 25th of July through the 27th. On the 26th is Tokidoki night. You get a Romo Tokidoki figurine. Go to sfgiants.com/special events. So Bumgarner will pitch the bottom of the 7th inning.
There's a gamer babe. Got her hat on. Wearing her colors. Bumgarner coming back out for the 7th. Going to face the top of the Yankees lineup. But now a little bounce in his step because he just watched his teammate score a run.
Standing tall here at Yankee Stadium.
Oh yeah, why not? I just heard Kate Smith sing "God Bless America." They had "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." The Giants won "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." It's pretty impressive when you come in Yankee Stadium as a fan base,
Yeah,
and win "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" against the hometown crowd.
Brett Gardner's 1 for 3.
Andy Cuno, the Giants photographer.
Gardner takes just a pitch wide. 1 ball and no strikes. Bumgarner inching in on 100 pitches. And he chases that high fastball.
There's Susanna. She and Andy are the 1-2 punch with the cameras for the Giants.
Breaking ball 1-2. Out of play. One-two pitch. Here it is. Slash down the left field line. Pagan over, and it's foul. So Brett Gardner will come back.
With Gardner's speed, if that ball is fair down the line, it's at least a double, maybe more.
And the 1-2. So the next pitch now for Bumgarner will be number 100.
Not a problem. Pretty good take right there. I mean, that's exactly the pitch Bumgarner wanted to throw. Something that just looked like it was going to be a strike and then crash away down below the zone. So now it becomes a challenge situation for Bumgarner. Does not want to walk speed to start off an inning.
Got him.
Strikeout number 6 for Madison Bumgarner, and they're all swing and miss strike threes as you see Hunter Strickland stretching it out, get ready.
Here's Castro. Castro's 3 for 3. For the Giants in the 8th inning, with Miller most likely coming in, it'll be Belt, Brown, and Crawford. There's a Tapper foul.
Andrew Miller, the second head of the three-headed monster. Get ready, he will pitch the 8th. Been a lot of rumors circulating around Andrew Miller these last couple weeks, as well as the closer for the Yankees, Aroldis Chapman. Yankees just one game above 500. Really, as Major League Baseball is 9 days away from the trade deadline, everybody's speculating that the Yankees may sell.
Well, they're 7 back. There's a called strike. In the American League East, but they've got 3 teams in front of them.
It just seems strange that the Yankees are sellers, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Popped up. Blanco in right field. Even at that pop-up had a little personality, and here's Beltran.
"107 pitches on the night. Look what happened in the first 2 innings. 47 throws for Bumgarner after the second inning. After that, he has really been in control of the pitch count.
Beltran singled in a run in the second. And a strike.
One thing we learned about Carlos Beltran when he was with the Giants briefly is he's not afraid to hit with 2 strikes.
He's a good guy too.
Yes, he is. You don't have to be around Carlos Beltran very long to realize that. Was a Giant in 2011. And while he was a Giant, hit .323.
Yeah, well, he missed about what, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
It's hit out of play. It's 2-2. Giants then saw Beltran in postseason. He was with the Cardinals. Hit on the ground to Crawford. And Crawford's throw is into the well. I think Beltran just showed that he can run when he wants to. I think he'd have beat that out.
Well, a rare error. And for Crawford, just overthrowing everybody into the photographer's pit. So an error that's going to put Beltran in scoring position at second base. And here's the speed we're talking about. And that's more than enough speed to put pressure on a play. For Crawford, that's error number 6 on the year.
So they do give Beltran a hit. And here's Rodriguez, who's 0 for 3, and a strikeout in a big spot in the 5th.
That was the 3rd error of the night for the Giants. And remember the last at bat that Rodriguez had, 3 fastballs, and he had to sit down. Here Bumgarner going right at him again, and he was waiting for it. And you know, a guy misses 3 fastballs in his previous at bat, he's thinking about him.
And the runner goes, and a swing and a foul.
Right in tight perfectly with a 91-mile-an-hour cut fastball.
Jacob Ellsbury, by the way, has come in to run. So Jacoby, I beg your pardon, Ellsbury. So it's 0-2. Rodriguez now asks for time. Bumgarner's going to chase Ellsbury back.
And we got to keep an eye on him.
Pagan and left. And that's going to end the inning. 8th inning coming up. 2-1 Yankees.
Is presented by authority of the San Francisco Giants and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of San Francisco Baseball Associates, LLC.
2-1 lead for the Yankees here in the 8th. Andrew Miller is the new pitcher. When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service. Your oil change tune-up and smog experts.
Andrew Miller, and take a look at the numbers. Impressive. 70 strikeouts against 70 walks in 41 innings.
Belt laying in the weeds. Had a good swing. Belt is 0 for 3. All of those at bats came off of Tanaka.
Talked about the strikeouts per 9 innings that Betances had over 15. Well, Andrew Miller over 15 strikeouts per 9 innings. And Miller, like Betances, also a 2-pitch guy, but the fastball mid to high 90s with movement. It's going to run into a lefty away from a righty, and a hard slider.
Belt out of play, 1-2. Some changes defensively. Ellsbury is now in center field. Hicks moves from center to right, and Gregorius, Didi Gregorius, is now at short. Belt now is going to have to fight. It's 1-2. Good take. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And that's the slider. That's the kill pitch for Miller. It's not a straight down biter. It's more of a sweeping breaking ball. It's got some tilt to it, but it's late and it's hard breaking, just like Betances.
Belt skies one to right, and it's Hicks who's going to make the catch. Belt may be thinking that he just got underneath that one.
The pitch usage, a lot of fastballs. The league's just hitting $143. They're not doing a whole lot better with the slider either. And you know, this is against righties and lefties. I mean, he's not a situational guy. He's a closer. He was the closer for the Yankees, and a very effective one before they picked up Aroldis Chapman.
And remember, Chapman started out, he was suspended, and then Miller picked up a quick 7 saves. Brown is 0 for 1. And right now he's having a hard time picking up that breaking ball. It's 0-2. Crawford's on deck.
Miller, another tall guy, 6'7", 205-pounder, lanky. Miller originally broke into the big leagues with the Tigers the same year he signed in 2006. He went from A-ball to the big leagues. And he spent time in Florida, Boston, Baltimore, and last year came over to the Yankees.
Now everybody wants him.
Yeah, well, last year he had 35 saves with the Yankees.
Even the teams that had him already want him.
They want him back.
Giants have Osich in the bullpen getting loose. Well, as they look down there now, it looks like they've got a right-hander as well.
Strickland,
so Strickland's
and
still
Osich.
down there.
Bruce Bochy trying to be patient with his offense.
On the ground into right field. A base hit for Brown. Nice at bat. And that'll bring Crawford to the plate. Crawford's 1 for 3. Hit a line drive to right that Beltran made a nice outstretched running catch on in the 6th to take a hit away from him. So Crawford against Miller. 1 ball and no strikes.
So out of bed, coming at him with a big sweeping breaking ball. I think if you're hitting off the left side for Miller, I mean, you go into the at bat thinking breaking ball.
Well, Belt hit a fly ball to right that I think Belt probably said he just missed it, and that came on a breaking ball. One and 2.
3 pitches, 3 sliders.
Outside 2 and 2.
Trying to sneak attack him with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, aiming for that outside corner.
Probably wants to get him out with the slider, right?
Yeah, you would think, but still, I mean, the fastball is a good kill pitch too. Saw what the league was hitting again. It's under 200. And the breaking ball.
Grant Green has now replaced Gillespie in the on-deck circle. Three and 2. Got him.
And the kill pitch, a slider. A perfect slider, I might add, on a 3-2 count. Big low 3/4 release, just a late elastic arm release, and just snaps that breaking ball explosively out of the strike zone. And I don't know how you can throw a better slider than that.
You got to commit pretty early when a guy's throwing 98.
The University of North Carolina, those guys are clean shaven. But Larry Rothschild, a rare visit to the mound. And this is just simply to talk about how they're going to pitch Green. Take a look at the extension that he gets. just an absolute perfect pitch.
Here's Green. Green hitting at 278. He's got a home run. He's got 5 runs batted in. And he looks at a strike. Mac Williamson is on deck. Foul back. Miller not wasting any time. It's 0-2. Brown thought about it, and then once he started thinking, and you don't go right away, you better put on the brakes.
He who hesitates is lost.
Pulled on the ground, foul.
That was a good place for that baseball to find a home. Thank you.
Just be careful. She might let it fly.
Psyched. Ooh. Not often you see a breaking ball from a left-handed pitcher buckle a right-handed hitter. And that buckled Grant Green.
Green trying to hit one in the alley. He's going to lift one into the alley. Ellsbury over. He can't get it. And Mac Williamson's going to have a shot. Runners at first and third.
Nice 2-strike, 2 out at bat from Green. Think about the Yankees bullpen, the 3-headed monsters. You look out the bullpen when each of these guys, Betances, Miller, and Chapman, get out there. Nobody else warming up. I mean, this is their inning. So if you're Bruce Bochy, you know if you have a right-hander left on the bench, you could put him up there against Miller, and this is exactly what he's got with Williamson stepping in the box.
Mac Williamson. Foul straight back and out of play. Hit a home run on Wednesday at Fenway Park.
Not a hanger either from Drew Pomeranz. Knee-high outside corner. 3-run shot.
That would work here.
That would work.
Brown at third, Green at first. It's likely Mac Williamson better be ready. He's going to see another one of those at some point.
Power on power right there.
It's 0-2.
Down below the strike zone with a 2-strike slider. Perfect pitch. Great take. Perfect pitch, great take again with the slider below the zone. That's exactly where Miller wanted to throw it.
I mean, if he throws it for a strike, he's actually doing Mac Williamson a favor.
That's how you take advantage of an 0-2 and a 1-2 count. Aroldis Chapman starting to get up and stretch it out. 3 times with the slider, and that was close.
This will be pitch number 29 coming up.
Ramiro Pena on deck. Would love to get a chance to hit this inning.
I think Mr. Williamson is in the swing mode right here. 3-2. The runner at first. Green will be on the move. To left. Deep off the bottom of the well. 1 run scores. And holding up at third is Green. And this game is tied.
And the Giants fans erupting in this ballpark, and there's a lot of them, and they're not all wearing orange. And let's take a look at the fastball challenge. 3-2 right across the letters. Strong top hand from Williamson, and just rifles it off the wall. Watch the ball come off the wall to Gardner, who gets the bare hand. And really, that's what Roberto Kelly, the third base coach, saw, and he made the right call, holding up Green. You can't count on a bobble from Gregorius on the relay.
Here's pitch.
So Ramiro Pena stepping in and getting a first pitch slider. And he was in the swing mode looking for a first pitch strike.
And now it's 0-2. No balls and 2 strikes. That'll end the inning. Giants tie it up. Tomorrow, 12:30 pregame live back in the Bay Area. 1 o'clock will be first pitch, and you can see it right here on CSN Bay Area. It's a 2-2 ball game, and now Josh Osich is the new pitcher. When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service, your oil change tune-up, and Smog Experts.
So the numbers for Josh Osich as he comes into his 47th game. 1-1 with a 4.13 ERA. Lefty's hitting 141. Righty's a tad higher, about 200 points higher.
Here's Headley. Headley takes a pitch down low.
97-mile-an-hour two-seamer just to acquaint himself with Headley. Headley, who has good power. Grant Green at second base. Ramiro Pena goes over to third base.
Out of play. So in front of his mom, his dad, his brother, Mac Williamson with the biggest hit of the game. Outside, 2 balls and 1 strike. Hit down the right field line. That'll be foul.
Tell you how live this ballpark is. Anything that is hit to the right side of the field, you look up. Even a ball hit off the end of the bat foul, you're going, uh-oh. Yeah. But if you watch batting practice today, it kind of conditions you that way. We saw balls go out of the ballpark that, well,
Denver
left us in awe.
Yeah. They do that in Denver. 2-2. So Osich on that pitch breaks down Headley. Teixeira is on deck. An emergency swing to stay at 2-2. Tap to third. No chance. Man, that's a base hit.
Man, with 2 strikes, I mean, you're not going to think about Chase Headley being a bunter anyway. I mean, with no strikes, but 2 strikes, you're playing deep. And just a swinging bunt. Ramiro Pena trying his best to get after it, but this winds up being a thing. And in the mind of Chase Headley, a thing of beauty. So the Yankees get their leadoff runner on.
So here's Teixeira. Teixeira batting for the first time. Came into the game for defense. Here he takes down low.
Pressure's on Trevor Brown. I mean, you cannot give up 90 feet. You've got to block everything down the dirt.
He's a 185 hitter, as you see Romo getting loose. Two and 0.
And he will grind you. He's got a good eye. Teixeira has had a couple of injuries. Hurt his knee earlier in the year. Just recently had fouled a ball off his foot, took him out of the lineup for several days.
And a strike. On deck is Romine. 3-1.
Does not go out of the zone. Does not help you. Osich with his high velocity two-seam fastballs, if he can keep it down around the knees, I mean, he'll get ground balls with that pitch. Another reason why he likes the two-seam grip.
Three and two.
96-mile-an-hour challenge. Teixeira was not thinking about anything but the fastball.
Three and two.
And that's a mistake.
Well, Bruce Bochy knows that they've got McCann sitting in the dugout. He's the last of the remaining extra people for Joe Girardi. Gregorius is on deck, and then Brett Gardner. So it's actually Hicks is on deck. But you bring in Romo, he's going to end up facing McCann, then Hicks, and then two left-handed hitters. A bunt attempt, and it's 0-1.
So there's the decision made by Joe Girardi. More than willing to give up an out to move his runners up. And I think in watching the stuff from the side that Josh Osich has, I think he's trying to stay out of the double play. But that last effort from Romine in the bunt did not give you a lot of confidence if you're thinking about calling it again in your Girardi. And that step off was called by Bochy to see if Romine would tip, and he did. Romine on the year has one sacrifice.
Oh, 2. Yeah, look, Osich is he would rank up there as top 10 toughest guys to bunt.
He's nasty, no
He
doubt.
is.
I mean, you're running high velocity sinking fastball running away from a right-handed hitter. It's not an easy assignment, especially when you don't do it very much. I can't believe that Girardi would put the bunt sign on again after watching those two efforts.
I would think not. He did. Romine did, however, just have a conversation with Joe Espada, the third base coach. So he got the verbal sign, whatever it is. And that's a tapper. Crawford, one. Crawford high. Ball gets away from Belt. Coming in to score is Headley. Unbelievable.
Well, it was an awkward play from the footing standpoint as Crawford gets over and realizes his best effort is to try and make the double play himself. Steps in the bag with his right foot, it's 360s, and throws high for the second time tonight. The 6'5" Belt cannot come up with it. And as it kicks away, Headley responsive, and this becomes the difference in the game. Wow. A 4-error night for the Giants.
Jeff. When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change at Auto Service, your oil change tune-up and smog experts. Field hit, walk, error. Not exactly the way the Giants had it.
The first time in Brandon Crawford's career he's had a 3-error night. But right now it's Sergio Romo coming in for the 9th time this year. His number's very good, just 4 base runners allowed, 6 2/3 with 6 strikeouts and a 1.35 ERA. So Romo going to try and come in and clean up the mess. And Chapman very quietly continues his prep.
So Hicks is a switch hitter, which puts him now hitting left-handed against Romo.
Yeah, I thought in watching the replay of the error, I thought there was a chance they might give the error to Brandon Belt.
Swing. You're going to miss. 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, it didn't hit off the top of his glove. I think it hit off the side of his glove, which would lead you to believe that it was catchable.
But once a first baseman leaves his feet like that, they're always going to assume an errant throw. Nevertheless, a bad break for the Giants. A 4-error night and a 3-error night for Crawford. Really, it doesn't matter who you are in this game. At some point, you're going to get humbled.
2-2.
And a 3-error night for a guy like Brandon Crawford. I mean, to me, that's unheard of, and yet here it is.
Blanco moving over. Two outs. So here's Gregorius. Gregorius batting for the first time. And a strike. He's having a really terrific season. 296, 11 home runs, 41 driven in. I'm looking at the home run numbers, and I'm thinking there isn't anybody on this team that has taken advantage of right field more than this guy has.
Giants know Gregorius from when he played with the Diamondbacks. They know he's a low ball hitter, and he likes to get extended. He's a middle away guy. And as you point out, Cap, I mean, he's got a little pop in his bat.
One and two.
The Yankee people feel that if there was an MVP right now on this team, Gregorius might be that guy. What he's done with the glove, what he's done with the bat. Been a good player for Joe Girardi.
For the Giants in the 9th, it'll be two left-handed hitters and a switch hitter facing Chapman as that pitch is high. 2-2. And the 2-2 pitch. Little flare to Pagan, and Pagan's going to make the basket catch to end the inning. Ninth inning coming up. Giants need 1 to tie, 2 to take the lead.
Player of the game is brought to you by Honda, and we think the 8th inning, from an 0-2 to a 3-2 to a top-hand bullet off the wall, we're going to give that distinction to Mac Williamson tonight. Our player of the game brought to you by Honda. That was an at-bat he will never forget. So a new pitcher for the Giants is going to be Aroldis Chapman when it's time for a change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service. Your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. And the numbers for the closer of the Yankees, outstanding. 40 strikeouts at 28 1/3 against 8 walks, 19 saves and 20 opportunities. And if you like fastballs, you're looking at the right guy, because he is going to give you a fastball that at times will hit speeds of up to 105 miles per hour.
Yeah, he did that the other day.
He throws more balls over the 100-mile-an-hour mark than anybody. Or like that. Over 1,200 times this year, he's throwing a fastball over 100 miles an hour. Oh, yeah, by the way, he's also got a slider. He can throw at 93.
So Blanco will try to get on any way he can. As he steps back and he takes a strike.
I mean, he is a perfect throwing catapult. 6'4", 212-pounder. 28 years of age. 6-year veteran. And he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
Foul. So Blanco thinking, I'm going to take a shot at this.
I like the thought. And 81% of the time, you're going to see the high velocity fastball in the league, even when they know it's coming. They're hitting $165 off it. The slider, if he throws it, he's doing you a favor. The legal hit 267, and he's even got a changeup, which I don't really think is legal when you throw that many pitches over 100 miles an hour.
So it's 1-2 and a battle now for Blanco.
Just a bit outside at 103. And folks, it is an easy 103. The long-armed arm action that he has. It's kind of lazy arm. Just a bit outside at 102. Yeah, I applaud the takes from Gregor Blanco as Denard Span waits.
Three and two. Down the left field line. And it's off Gardner. And Blanco is off to the races. He is going to put on the brakes. And it'll be a double. Nice at bat.
And that'll be a great at bat. 3-2 challenge. Take what he gives you. Fastball away. Nice bat head control. Chapman had to challenge him. And Gardner, usually a very sure-handed outfielder, if he gets that glove on it, it's usually over. He slides into it. And with the exceptional effort, I mean, no consideration of an error. That's a base hit all the way. So the Giants are opening a leadoff double here to start things off.
If he's not so fast, Blanco's going to have a triple.
Yeah.
If Gardner's not so fast. So here's Span. Span with a one-hopper to Gregorius. And that'll bring up Pagan.
Pretty nice play by Gregorius.
Yeah, that had some spin on it.
Had some spin on it. He just kind of backed him up, and he threw kind of flat-footed. He's got the best arm of the team, one of the best arms in the American League. Showed it there.
Here's Pagan. Pagan is 0 for 4. Swing and a miss.
102 right out of bed. So you see it, you make your adjustment. Talked about the number of pitches that he's thrown this year, over 100 miles an hour, over 1,200. The next guy, I mean, Chapman is ahead of him by 900. So there's nobody in the game that can consistently do what Chapman does with the velocity on a fastball.
All you need to know. Pagan is 1 for 4 lifetime. He's got a double against Chapman.
.104.
Right at Castro, 2 outs. And here's Belt.
And another Adam ball and another good at bat. Starvin Castro just a half a shuffle step. Set your feet, half a shuffle step, bang. I mean, that's just a great at bat. You get nothing for it.
Well, here's Belt. Belt a chance to tie this game or to give the Giants the lead. And a strike.
104. And I mean absolute pinpoint perfect knee-high outside corner location. If you're Belt, all right, make your adjustment. Just kind of settled in there at 104. It's hard to describe what 104 looks like in a batter's box. you have to cheat. You got to start early. And when he throws a 93-mile-an-hour slider, it just isn't fair.
So it's 1-2. Blanco with his lead at second. Foul.
Again, at 104. You always wonder about how hard it would be to hit a guy who throws 104. It's not that easy to catch a guy that throws 104.
Well, it's easier to hit it if you know it's coming. But you saw the breaking ball that he threw to Belt, and that complicates matters. One and two.
.104.
Blanco at second.
.104 inside corner, and Chapman was walking off the mound thinking the game was over. You're not seeing an exaggeration with the target from Romine. I mean, he's putting that glove right behind the middle of the plate. You see the reaction from Girardi.
So it comes down to a 3-2 pitch to Brandon Belt. And if I'm Belt, I'm just cheat on the fastball. If he throws you a slider, tip your cap. 3-2. Got him, and that's the ball game. So Chapman strikes out Belt. Game one of the series, it goes to the Yankees. And the Giants played the Yankees tough tonight, and they did all of their scoring against the big three and had a chance in the ninth to even do the same.
Well, and a rare night defensively for the Giants. A 4-error night and 3 errors from their Gold Glove shortstop. And just the road trip continues in a negative way. It's had 6 in a row now they've lost.
One of the errors by Crawford costly. Yankees 3, Giants 2. Stay tuned. Esurance Giants postgame live starts right now.